Except when you get to the all right, you got one lesson. What? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. You going back? Yeah. Okay. Wish me luck. Good luck.
This can't be. North Carolina Poor People's
Hello,
Camp.
everybody. Just give me a couple of minutes here, just letting people in. Thank you for being on time.
Hello.
Hey, Maria. Let me make you a co-host right now.
Perfect. I have some team members joining me.
Good. Okay, I know a couple of people said they'll be a few minutes late, but that's okay. We can give it, let's give it about 4 more minutes if you don't mind. Say hello. Hi.
That's perfect.
Good to see you. Get on camera here. I've been hit by the allergy like monster and it's all here. So if you hear it, it's nasal and fun like that. But
Samantha, hi, Celeste from New North Carolina. I just finished battling the allergy monster. I led a text bank and I sounded like Sid the garbage man from Elmo. I sounded really, really bad. The volunteers told me to go get some water.
Click on your face.
I don't know. It just never, this was the worst ever. But yeah, it never ends, you know? The older you get, the worse everything gets. Let me just tell you, it's just,
Oh gosh.
it's not pretty.
Well, it took me about a week to get over it. Lots of nasal drops and lots of NyQuil to sleep.
That's what I've got.
I forget how I did it before.
The core. Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Hello, Sam.
How do I get that? Mirror my video? No?
Is Taylor, do you want me to make Taylor co-host also? Maria?
Yeah, that would work. Either her or Celeste, either one of them.
Okay.
I forget how I did it before.
Who's speaking? Does someone need help?
Oh, I'm trying to put my my video up instead of my husband's picture. And so I'm on the screen that says video, but I forgot how I click it to get my video on there. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, so in the bottom left of your screen, you should see a microphone and a video camera.
Let me exit it. There you go. Ah, thank you.
There you are.
It says start video. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome. Are we recording? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So welcome to everybody, whether you're a new face here or a familiar friend, new friend or familiar friend. Thank you for coming to this important training. We're going to get right to it because
like I said, hope it ain't a Trump house.
We've got a lot to cover and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And we have Maria Jose Taminas Borda, MJ from the New North Carolina Project, and she will be presenting. So we're really lucky and grateful to have her here. So please introduce yourself in the chat. If you want to leave your any information about what organizations you're affiliated with, if you want to leave your email there just for a handy reference for me, and we'll just get right to it. And hopefully at the end, maybe we'll have a few minutes for some questions, Maria.
Yep, that's what I plan on.
Okay, very good. Hi, George, you're there. Thank you. And I'll let people in the meantime. If you have anything you want to set up, slides, or you could go ahead and share the screen, do whatever you need to do.
Sounds good. I'm just going to take a second to introduce myself really quick. So like Samantha said, I'm Maria Jose, or MJ. I am a regional organizer for the New North Carolina project. I come from a big DC background and kind of fell in love with community organizing towards the end of 2019 and moved down south to kind of just focus on this work. So I love canvassing. I love hosting canvasses. This is kind of my jam. And I'm in charge of Mecklenburg, Cabarrus Union, and Gaston counties. So today's presentation is just going to be kind of like a how-to, like a one-on-one on what exactly are the materials you need, how to prep your volunteers, how to go through safety trainings, and just what that kind of looks like. So, okay. I'm going to share my screen.
Hey, John, where's the chat thing? Oh, I see it now. All right,
Okay.
it's down here.
All right. Is everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So this is our Canvassing 101 training. Let's see. Okay. And just a, ooh, sorry there. No, sorry about that. Okay. So just to talk a little bit about the New North Carolina project, we are an organization based on wanting politics to represent the need of North Carolinians. And so our big thing is investing in communities of color and expanding the engaged electorate and just really backing up the communities that need it. And this is like a little overview of what our Canvassing 101 is going to look like. So pre-canvas prep, what the day of is going to look like, and then we'll go over some safety stuff. Okay, so the number one thing about a canvas is where you're going to knock. The location is huge. Your focus is going to be to find a community that fits your needs, or that is close to your organization, or is just a community that you want to back up. And then on top of finding that community, then you want to assess your team's abilities. So this is something that's really big for me. There are times where I'll have a ton of volunteers come in and they're wonderful and I love them, but I know that everyone's above the age of 60. So I'm not going to pick a ton of condominiums that have no elevators that I'm going to ask people to run up 7-8 floors. I'm saving that for when I have a group of college kids to come, or high school kids that are volunteering that are more high energy. There you also kind of have to take into account what exactly your team looks like. Do you have an all person of color team? Do you have, you know, more of a Caucasian background? All of those things are gonna, you know, play into exactly where you're gonna go knock and how it affects and enters that and is received by that area. And then also figuring out exactly what background you're knocking. So are you going to be doing minivan or using an application that you're going to cut turf in, go into, and then hand out numbers? Or are you blanket canvassing? So are you picking an entire neighborhood, taking a clicker in your hand, or marking tallies and just going in and knocking every single door that they have? And then once you have that kind of location picked out, what exactly is the area that you want to knock in, you're going to have to figure out your script. So I like to say that scripts happen in 3 big parts. You're going to introduce your speaker and your org. So you're going to say, hi, my name is, and this is my organization. This is what we do. And then obviously ask that person if you have, you know, like an application or something that's letting you know the door you're knocking, you can confirm their name. Otherwise, you're just going to explain what exactly it is that you're there for. So when I'm knocking with the New North Carolina project at the moment, I am walking in, I'm introducing myself, I'm introducing the New North Carolina project, and I'm kind of giving them a little background on why exactly I'm there. So I'm talking to them about local elections. I'm talking to them about us investing in communities of color. And right now, our big thing is we're gathering data. So our script has a question that says, if you could change one thing about your community to improve it, what would it be? And then it has a lot of answers, whether that is funding education, whether that is healthcare, broadband, affordable housing. There's so many options. And then they are going to give me feedback on that information, because so that was me giving like kind of my ask of, this is what I'm asking of you, and then I'm collecting that data and I'm moving on. So your script is really important. This is a huge moment to connect with the community, to introduce yourself in the way that you want to be introduced, and, you know, just making that connection at the door so that when you come back to that door, when they get a phone call from that your organization, or they get a postcard from your organization, they can say, oh, I've heard about them. And, you know, they've had those conversations that were impactful. And then so those are your 2 big things. You want your location and your script. And once you have that down, materials. This is big. So I always like to keep clipboards and pens. A meeting location is always part of my materials. So I like to stay around no more than 7-ish minutes from the neighborhood that I'm knocking to find a park or find picnic tables where I can set up, have everyone meet and discuss before going places. That isn't always that easy. I've hosted canvassing events where we've had 120 people and we're knocking huge areas and it's a 6-hour day. And so some of those people are driving 20 minutes out to their turf. But as long as it's small and local and doable, I like to keep it less than 10 minutes. I am already asking people to come, to show up, to walk, to drive through these neighborhoods. I don't want them moving a million places back and forth. I also like to keep a stock of sign-in sheets so that if your signups are online, sometimes you miss people and sometimes someone brings a friend, and that's good to have a sign-in sheet so that they can put in their name, their email, their phone number, and you can go back later and count, you know, on that person, hopefully to show up for another event, or just keep them in touch, keep them in your roster. I also like to have poster board. So turf numbers, if you're using an application like Minivan, are usually very long, like 13-digit numbers with a dash in the middle, and they're really hard to just for people to see and to have printed out little numbers. So what I like to do, you guys can't see me personally, right? You can only see my screen that I'm sharing. Is that?
No, we can see your face.
Oh,
if
you
we
can see you. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so this is how I like to take a big poster board and write out turf numbers. I like to write out a big turf number in big bold letters with a big marker. And then I like to add always a second one, because sometimes, especially if you have a more experienced group, they will knock this out in 30 minutes and have 40 minutes to spare. And so I like to add kind of like a little sticky note with a second number in case they get done. And then I also like to put my phone number at the bottom. So if in case of emergency, they can take that with them. If anything happens, it's in writing and it's in their pocket. After the poster board and creating that. Oh no, I don't think I'm going to be able to go back. Okay, there we go. So your canvassing materials, everything that is your door knockers, your flyers, your t-shirts, anything that you're going to be handing out or giving away. In the New North Carolina project, our door knockers look like this. They have a QR code to help people register to vote. The back has resources for food banks, healthcare, crisis center, housing, that type of stuff. And we leave those on the door. Snacks and water for your volunteers are always huge, especially as the summer months start getting really, really hot. You want to make sure that people are well fed and they're hydrated as they're walking around. We're also in a pandemic, so hand sanitizers are also very important to have around. Your phone application, if you're working with something like Minivan, and if not, if your team has clickers or a tally system, and that's how you're counting doors, making sure all of the materials for that are ready. And then I also like to print my script. So whatever script might be popping up on a phone application, I like to just have like a little printed out version of it that people can go through and that we can look at and discuss in case people have questions before they hit the doors. Does anyone have any questions, or would I like to pause for questions before I keep going? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, and then something pre-canvas that is huge for me is checking in on your volunteers. As you have signups rolling in or people coming in, whether it is an email or a text message, or I especially like to do a phone call, it really, really helps out drive just who shows up and your turnout. People love to hear from the person that is hosting this event, and checking in on them, and just making sure that they're good and they're ready to go. This is also a really good time that I like to take to mention attire, to mention wearing comfortable walking shoes. Layers of the morning is going to be chillier, and if it's going to get colder, just kind of keeping an eye on the weather as to what that's going to look like. And it's also the time that I take to ask people to download the application. So if you're using Minivan, if you're using a door knocking app, I like to ask them to download it then, answer questions that I can through the phone. But that way, when it comes time to the event, we're not having technical issues or people that, might not be able to download something without Wi-Fi, and most people will have it there ready to go. Okay, and now we have arrived at your wonderful day of canvassing. So I like to arrive 20-30 minutes with all my stuff together at our meeting location to set things up, setting up, clipboards, the signing of papers, the turf numbers, the snacks and drinks, laying out all the org materials. I obviously, like, if you can see who's coming the day before, that usually gives you a good number of how many, bunches of door knockers you're going to need to put together, flyers. So I like to kind of individually set those out per team the night before. So it's just really easy for people to take their stuff, grab it, and go when they need to. And also fully making sure and pushing that people just, if they walk in, making sure they have any application that they need downloaded it. So then if there are technical difficulties and they didn't do that before, they can go ahead and, you'll have 30 minutes of check-in time to help them out with any of that, and it's not happening last minute. So what pre-knocking looks like for me personally, and I know for a lot of the people on my team, is I really like to take time to get to know my volunteers, get to know my canvassers. I never want anyone to feel like they're showing up and that I am using their body for work and labor. with no emotional, support on the other end of that. That is never what I want to portray. I want my volunteers to feel like they're part of something bigger. I want them to feel welcome, and I want them to I want to personally take back a lot from their experiences. So I like to set everyone up in a circle, introduce myself, my position, where I'm from, and, just really talking to everyone about why they're there today, whether it's campaigning for a candidate or whether it's, hosting a local food drive and trying to get turnout for that, whatever it is, just, really making sure that they have an awareness of what exactly they're there for. And also having them follow suit. So getting to know your volunteers, making sure that people, stand in a circle and say their name loud and proud. And, if they have anything to share as to why they're there today or where they're from or, what brought them here, that's always a really nice group building activity. And then I kind of also just like to give an overview of the organization that I'm working for, and what exactly data-wise we're trying to collect from the knock. So you have the big feelings of, wanting to connect with your community, wanting to, get feedback, wanting to do that boots on the ground work, but also knowing that that data is going for, it's happening for a reason. When I'm asking you to go to a door and ask someone what's going on in their community, I'm not just having you do that for fun. We're taking that information, we're putting it together, and we're seeing how these communities are asking from us to invest in them, and just really gathering that data. So it really you get really good information from doing this. Afterwards, I like to break my volunteers out into pairs. And from there, I'm going to explain the script and what we want to communicate at the doors. From here, it depends on really the experience level of your volunteers. You can set everyone up in sets of 2, give them a script in their hands so that they can talk to each other back and forth and kind of do mock conversations. Or if you have a more experienced group that feels pretty confident, you could always, ask someone to come up, ask a team member to come up, go over the script with you, model it in front of everyone, see if anyone has any questions, and go from there. Afterwards, I like to do kind of like a safety training and give my volunteers time to ask questions, which we'll go over the safety training in a little bit. And then I will hand out everyone's materials and send them out to knock their doors. So once you get to the doors, what is that looking like? I always say knock, wait 30 seconds. I like to knock again because I really want to get you to open that door, and then I will leave. I'll give it maybe 30 more seconds, but I also don't want to spend, more than 60 seconds at a door where no one's going to come and speak to me, really making sure that the time counts for the conversations that are going to happen. Remembering to smile and to use eye contact, and to just also really make the script fit you. Those personal experiences are what makes those conversations meaningful. And if you can show up to a door and say, here's a list of things I'm asking you for, and I can let you know that I'm really focused on education because I have kids and we've gone through the pandemic with, virtual learning. And that also made me realize that there's broadband issues in my area and internet's not great. Things like that, being able to share that is really big. And then that, creates a platform for people to then communicate and speak back to you because they feel like they're seeing common ground there. And also just reminding everyone to not be discouraged. Knocking is really hard, as fun and wonderful as it is. There will be a lot of people that don't want to answer the doors. There will be people that are not going to be very kind at the doors, and you may get a door slammed in your face once or twice, but to not be discouraged, because those good conversations and that magic that gets created when someone answers the door and feels like have someone standing there in front of them who sees them and who is willing to communicate with them is huge, and it's worth all the slammed doors. Okay, and so then once everyone comes back, I always like to, and I think I might have skipped past it earlier, but I like to set a meeting time. I don't like to just send my volunteers and say, all right, have fun, don't come back, like, see you next time. I like to come back, especially to collect materials, but also to have my volunteers communicate with each other, to hear stories. There are times when, you know, people could have a really bad turf and the street they knocked was awful, but if that one person that had those 3 really good conversations can open up and share that, then that allows, you know, hope from a first person perspective of, okay, maybe I'll come back next time and my experience will be different. I also really like to use this time to ask my volunteers for feedback. You know, sometimes we're orgs with a lot of moving parts and a lot of, you know, moving people, and, you know, things are happening all the time. And you know, we miss things. And so they're the ones that are out there knocking the doors, that are seeing the most of this. And so they can come back and say, hey, I think this question is actually really sucky. It's not that great, and we're not getting really good feedback. But I found out that if I rephrase the question this way, people tend to be nicer. That's really good feedback to like get. And then we can go back on the back end and say, hey, this might have looked really great for us in a meeting, but it doesn't look good when it's actually hitting the ground. So how can we fix this, and how can we make it better? And then lastly, just really making sure you thank your volunteers. Canvassing is a hard job. It's especially hard when it gets into the hot summertime. And so just being really thankful that, you know, everyone's there. Okay, and then this is kind of my mini safety training after I just had you guys digest a whole lot of information. But my safety training, my number one is always telling canvassers to trust their gut. If a situation ever feels unsafe, they are allowed to walk out of it. They are allowed to avoid it. They are allowed to run away if they need to. There is nothing bigger than their safety keeping them at that door. Like, their safety and them being safe and having a good experience is number one above all. And your gut is always going to tell you the truth. So if something just doesn't feel right, you can skip it. That is okay. No one's going to come back, and no one's going to, you know, yell at you for, you know, keeping yourself safe. And this is also a time to remember that people have different experiences depending on what they look like, what their sexuality is, you know, what their religion is, and they might have extremely varying experiences. I know male canvassers that have, you know, no problem going up to, you know, if let's say you're in a neighborhood and there's a group of 6 men, and, you know, 2 male canvassers will be happy to go up and talk to them and hand them information. But if I have 2 high school girls that don't feel comfortable about that, I completely understand them walking past it. You know, I have white coworkers who feel really comfortable knocking no soliciting or doors with no soliciting signs because they've never had an issue. But I know that I have Black male coworkers who have not had those same experiences and are not going to push those boundaries. So really knowing exactly what your volunteers kind of look like, what their background is, just making sure that they really keep themselves safe most of all, but knowing that what works for somebody else may also not work for them. Also, just really reminding people to never, ever, 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 ever touch a mailbox. I don't care if it looks pretty. I don't care if it's great. Stay 5 feet away from it. Don't look at it. That is how orgs, you know, people like to get orgs in trouble. It is also illegal, but they're, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and I've seen times where, you know, maybe an opposing side or an opposing team has taken picture of canvassers next to a mailbox and, you know, tweeted it out and been like, oh, look at this specific party doing this something that was illegal, when nothing bad was happening. It was just they were standing next to something they shouldn't have been. So it's just better to avoid mailboxes if you can at all costs. Also keeping an eye out for no soliciting signs, no trespassing signs, beware signs, whether that is beware of dog or whatever it may be. If it does not look friendly, you do not have to enter that space. And also just keeping a big out for an eye out for animals and pets. I had someone during a canvassing training once say that if they're ever by like a bigger fence or like a fenced in backyard, they kind of, and they're walking into it, they kind of like to rattle the fence a little bit just to see if any dog is going to come out. And if not, then they would decide, if they did, then they would decide to keep going. But that was kind of their side, just, you know, taking really big steps, kind of being a little loud about your environment, I think is always good. It just keeps people from being startled, which is great. And then as far as COVID-19 safety goes, you know, like I've said a million times, keeping our volunteers and canvassers healthy is top priority. If they are not well, they cannot do the job, and this doesn't get done. So we really just rely on them for that people power. So making sure masks are on. I like to limit 2 or 3 canvassers per car, and if it's nice out, keeping windows down to just keep that airflow. Being really, really vigilant about coming up to a door, knocking on it, and then taking 6 feet of space to step back. When I was canvassing during the 2020 campaign, I came upon many houses that had an entire family that was all positive and so sick, and they were still opening the doors and they were still communicating. And so you never know what's going to be on the end of that. So taking a step back and just kind of giving some room between you and the door is always a really good idea. And then making sure that hands are being sanitized, pens and any clipboards or any materials are also being sanitized. And that was it. I don't know if I talked really fast. I'm sorry if I did.
That's excellent. Thank you, Maria. I think you covered everything we can get started with. I mean, I know I'm ready. I've talked to you about getting feet on the ground on the 19th, and we'll do that. So as soon as you create that event, I will share it, and
Yes.
I'm ready to get going. So I hope you all learned something. If you have any questions for Maria, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions or any feedback or anything that you would like to share. I saw that George in the chat said that they canvassed dozens of homes for many years, very low income, and I only had one bad experience. Honestly, I think I tend to find myself the same. I think the hard part about the pandemic has been not being allowed to, you know, step into people's home and like hold their baby while they fill out the form and they send you off with a snack. It really is such a big, you know, way to connect with your community. So love that. Deborah, do you have a question? Do you have a hand up?
I do. I have a question about no soliciting signs. I know that my neighborhood has a no solicitation sign like right out on the main road. How do you handle that?
Okay.
Because there are some neighborhoods and HOAs that just have a blanket no soliciting in the neighborhood. So I'm just curious how that's handled.
Of course. So canvassing and, you know, what we're doing with the door knocking, providing resources, this is actually not considered soliciting, especially if you're doing voter registration. And so it really, truly, I think it just depends. I've knocked in plenty of neighborhoods that had big no soliciting signs at the beginning of them, and people have received us really well, and they're excited to get registered to vote, and they're excited to engage. But I think where I found more resistance is when people have the sticker kind of directly on their front door, like, do not touch my front door, stay away from them. I think that's when I tend to get a little more pushback. But what we are doing is actually, you know, protected under law, and it's not considered soliciting. Like, we are going in and we are registering people to vote.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that, because I know that some of my neighbors get really aggravated, I guess is the word.
Yeah, it does happen a lot.
Because they're saying we have a no solicitation sign and people are coming to the neighborhood anyway, and we have religious groups and people like that, and they get kind of
the religious groups are also kind of like protected under that, so that's also one of those things why, yeah, but it's hard, it's tough. I totally get that. Thank you so much. Sandy, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I have two questions. One is, we've done literature drops where we put the plastic bag that has the flyers in it on the mailbox post, but not on the mailbox, not touching the mailbox. Is that something that we should avoid? Or?
Yes, I try to stay away from mailboxes as much as possible. Putting them at the door or rolling them up and putting them between the screen door, anything like that. But it is illegal to like actually touch someone else's mailbox. So anything that can keep me out of trouble, keep me away from that, is something that I like to avoid.
Well, I'm a precinct chair, so I'm dealing with neighbors, but I appreciate what you're saying, and we will do that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And my other question related to the downloads for door knocking apps, and I'm just unfamiliar with them. And obviously, I don't at this point necessarily need to use one, because I assume that when you do that, you're working with a larger organization that's aggregating data, in an area, or perhaps a big area. Is that right?
Yeah. So I thought, my team and I talked about this earlier, and I was like, well, if they want a minivan training, that's something we could do later on. But basically the van is this, the big database with all the voter information.
Minivan, yeah.
Yep. And so minivan,
that would be their app that we might use. Okay. All right.
Yes. So yeah, I mainly talked about minivan, though I know that, there are other organizations that kind of have some smaller scale levels of that kind of will just have like an entire street, and they can, input name and phone number and email if they get it, that type of thing. So there are kind of smaller scale versions, but usually minivan is what you're going to be using.
Yep. We've not used it before, but I was thinking we would use it this year. So I wanted to know if there was anything else that I need to know about besides minivan. Thank you very much. It's been very helpful.
It. Of course.
You're located. I'm sorry. You already said you have it out there, and we'll leave a receipt in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Margie, I think your hand is up.
Yes. I was cooking part of the time you were talking, so I'm sorry if you covered this, but if you're doing knocking on doors, do you introduce yourself first with your full name, or do you say I'm a volunteer with such and such? And is handing out literature for Democratic candidates considered soliciting, or can we do that?
Okay, that is not considered soliciting, so you definitely can do that. Any backing of or campaigning for a candidate, that is okay. And then yes, you will introduce yourself, but it really depends on how it's done in the script that you're given for door knocking. So for ours, you'll see it's really little hand. So I can't show you, but it just says, hello, my name is blank. And so I can say like, hi, like my name is MJ. And then the script goes on to say, I'm a volunteer with the New North Carolina Project, and we are out here knocking doors in your neighborhood to share a list of resources available in your area. And then I would go ahead and ask them, are you Mark? And they would say, yeah, Mark, or no, this is not Mark, wrong house. And then I could mark it wrong house and, go from there. But yes, you do introduce yourself at the doors.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course. Sandy, you have another question?
I neglected to drop my hand. I'll get that taken care of. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Samantha?
Just when we're wearing the Poor People's Campaign t-shirt, we have to be really careful about what we're handing out as far as candidate information. If at all, it has to cover everybody, like we have to
Yes.
provide the slate. You know, we can't
Yeah.
just provide and say, vote for this person. We can say, do you need more information on the slate, and provide that, just to clarify that.
Yes, and that's why when we canvas with you guys, it's gonna be just a much more of like a list of resources rather than the backing of a candidate. And that's just the difference between, you know, C3 and C4 work, and making sure we keep that separate.
Perfect. I would love to ask Diane, if she's still here, to speak about her first experience in canvassing a couple of weeks ago with us.
I am. Oh geez. First of all, yeah, it was the very first time I'd ever done anything like that. I happened to have been in a field before I retired where I'm out in front of people all the time. So I didn't have any kind of nerves about going up to strangers' doors and saying hello. Okay.
Yeah.
What I was aware of is that I was in a community that I guess one might call very marginalized. And in terms of the particular people whose doors we were knocking on, every single one was a person of color. So I was very grateful to have a person of color who was with me, who also, I think he maybe had done canvassing once before, but we're both new. But the fact that he was from that area, he actually knew some of the people on the streets that we were canvassing. And I think it helped people to be willing to answer the door, because somebody who looked like them was part of the two of us, of the pair. So that's one thing I'm assuming we need to be sensitive to, is that whatever neighborhood you go into, what they look like and what you look like, if it doesn't match up completely, there could be some discomfort on the part of the people whose doors you're knocking on.
Yeah. And that, you know, that really goes back to, you know, when I mentioned kind of assessing what your team looks like, whether it is, you know, physically or racially. Like there is, if I know I have a group of, you know, just absolutely no people of color, and there's, you know, 20, I'm not going into some of the neighborhoods that I want to go into, because I know those people aren't going to feel safe, and I'm also not going to bombard the communities that I want to help, you know, with situations that might be uncomfortable, no matter how good the intention behind it, you know.
Yeah, I felt perfectly safe. I just wanted to make sure that the people
exactly
they were knocking on, it was like, what is she doing here, right?
Yeah, it's not about that, you know, the volunteers themselves at all, and it's way more about just making sure that the communities that I'm assessing see me as a place that, you know, is safe and is going to help and is, you know, going to provide them what they need in the you know, in the way that suits them the best.
Yeah, I was very glad to have participated, and I definitely want to do it again. So
very excited. Okay, Sherry.
Yeah, that what Diane just brought up has been my concern too. In that, you know, an older white woman in a neighborhood of color just doesn't seem to me to be forwarding the issues very well. And so I've canvassed a lot in the past, but we've always been in pretty much mixed neighborhoods and had people of color. So I'm assuming, I guess my question is, the hosts will make sure that we've got the right people going into the right places. Is that how that works?
Yes. Yeah, so this was a lot about just, you know, the planning and the logistics behind it. But, you know, I know that when I'm planning a canvas, that is something me and, you know, our background person that handles all the turf cutting and area creating, that is something that him and I sit down and discuss in great length about, you know, from what the demographics of my volunteers look like to everyone's ability to what kind of our, you know, can we do really spaced out houses and make people walk a lot? Is it easier to keep it closer together? I have, you know, if I, you know, have an entire person of color group, I can go into different areas, you know, that will all, you know, just be taken into account when the event is created in order to, you know, make sure like the best outcome.
Do you have any data on that? It's like I'm not afraid physically, emotionally, or any of that, and I'm happy to talk and have done canvassing. But do you have any data on how people are perceived, particularly in terms of race?
I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't personally have any, right off the top of my head. I will say I've always had really, really good experiences in heavy people of color areas. I think my scarier experiences have tended to be when I'm out in like more rural country type of areas. I was out canvassing in Georgia during the Senate runoff, and that was it definitely pushed me to care for the canvas or the safety of my canvassers a lot. There were things that I had never really seen, just kind of like I had like a group of canvassers had firecrackers thrown at them.
Wow.
By people waving big flags and things like that, or they would open the door and throw water on somebody. So I feel like I've never really found resistance in like lower income minority areas. I think that a lot of this time we don't realize how deeply ingrained a lot of the people in those communities have been in local politics for so long, and it's really a backbone of a lot of their communities. So I think I've seen scarier stuff out when I'm out in rural areas. Yeah
I could see that.
Yeah. I was gonna see, I think I downloaded a PDF version of the PowerPoint. I'm trying to see if I can. Let me see if this works. I'm gonna try to place it and link it, and if not, I will have Samantha kind of help me out with sending an email. I don't know. I'm going to put this link in, and I'm not sure if it'll work, but let me know if it does work. I don't know if it will. I don't think it will. We might have to attach it to an email, so I'll do that afterwards. Were there any more questions?
Hey, it's George.
Hi, George.
I was trying to put my hand up and then it went down. This isn't a question so much as it is a recommendation. And I could have missed this when you said it, Maria, because I'm so hot. I'm not even kidding. My house is not cool.
It's
and
really
I didn't
hot
sleep
today.
last night because it's so hot. So, okay. So sharing from my experience as a canvasser, if someone feels reluctant, just get them talking. And and it would be good to, if you ask them a question that they'll say yes to, or just get them talking about themselves. Are you from this town? Oh, you grew up here. Oh, well, where did you go to high school? And once someone's talking, then you can say, well, Maria and I are here because, the election's coming up, blah, 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 blah. So, if somebody feels reluctant when you're at the door with them, just chat and try your very best to never talk down to anybody. Don't correct their English. If they say something wrong, don't tell them you saw a roach crawling up the wall while you were talking to them. You really have to honor that person that they're talking with you. Everyone wants to be heard. So think about that, and that they're gifting you their time. Doesn't matter if it's only 3 minutes. It does make a big difference because people can feel when you're sincere. They can tell, and they can also tell when you're full of shit. So bring your best game.
That was really good. Really, really good. And I put like kind of something about, making the script your own. The more you tailor it to yourself, the better. But that was really good elaboration on that, George. I always like to say that you can actually hit and ask all the questions on the script without even following the script. I think once you really get to nail that down and you're kind of working with the same org or canvassing, the same stuff, you kind of tend to get a really good hang of it and are able to really make it.
One last thing, Maria, and this probably doesn't count y'all unless it's warm outside, but in some neighborhoods, people aren't comfortable with you in their house because it's not clean or, they feel whatever. And you can say, well, let's just sit on the porch, or let's just sit down here on the steps if you're able-bodied to do that. I can't do that these days, but there was a time I just sat on somebody's front steps and did it all, so that's all.
Yeah, those front yard conversations are always good ones. I agree.
Hey, this is Bob Finch speaking. I've been canvassing for about 20 years. I avoid going in people's houses. You have no idea what's behind that door. For safety's sake, please stay on the porch.
Yep. And honestly, like even for pandemic's sake, it was kind of what I was saying, the amount of doors that I've knocked where everyone in that household has been positive for COVID and there were 7 of them, making sure just that your safety's first. And if it seems like a welcome in conversation where you do have the ability, and again, tailored to your or to how confident you feel, how comfortable you feel, how long you've been doing this. If this is something that's very new to you and, sitting on a porch and having a deep conversation is not the thing that seems the most comfortable for you, you don't have to do that. It's really a big learning curve. And I think the longer you do it, the more you're able to assess how much you can push or how much closeness there is in a situation. Thanks, Bob. Dorothea?
Yes, I was wondering, is it, I'm more familiar with, because I walk my neighborhood, is it possible to request a particular location for your canvassing, or do you have it set up in a grid or something of that sort? Or
yeah, so again, it depends truly on the organization, but as far as I'm doing it, and I know a lot of my team members across the state are doing it, we're really just looking for people that want to access their communities. So whether it be a zip code or an exact area, we can all transfer that to kind of the people on the back end that pick the location, and they can tailor it to that.
And you would have the materials that we would be needing to pass along to these?
Yeah.
And is there a window of time for this to happen?
No, ma'am. I don't plan on leaving this job anytime soon. I just started
No,
like 2-3 months.
Do you think it's more effective to do it closer to a primary or to a general election? So that because it reinforces things people are hearing about, in other context?
Well, I think both. When it comes down to election time, there are so many organizations that flood in during those areas, and so many flyers, so many people are knocking doors, that it's almost like an influx of information that people are getting, and a lot of times many things end up in the trash. So one of the big things for us at the New North Carolina Project is making sure that we're starting to talk to people early on, getting involved early on, and making sure that when we talk to someone, we're coming back to talk to them 7 times. Whether that is, I'm going to knock your door 4 times, and then you're going to get a postcard, and then you're going to get a phone call, and then you're going to get a text message, or whether I'm going to knock 6 and then you're going to get a phone call. However that looks, we want to come back to those people over and over again so that they get not only used to us, but so that they trust us. And when communities trust us, then, we can go in and administer even more help than what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Diane?
I just was prompted from something that you said a few minutes ago. When it comes to the script itself, now I was brand new and I came in at the last minute in terms of registering for it. So maybe that was why, but is it possible to get a script in advance so you can really look it over? Because with I and the guy I was with, my being super brand new, his being pretty brand new, we found ourselves, trying not to read, but there were so many things we needed to ask. So you feel like your face is like holding onto this piece of paper instead of looking in the eye of the person you're trying to talk to. So I don't know if it's possible to get scripts in advance so you can look them over and give the impression you really just want to talk to them, not just read stuff.
No, I totally get that. And then that's also why I like to kind of make everyone practice a little bit so they can practice responses. And so I can pretend to be someone really difficult at the door. And then, that first time that happens, it's not this like big flustering of like, oh my gosh, no, they did not say that to me. And you just don't know where to go from there. So yeah, that's something that I could make happen. And then Sandy?
I was just curious about your organization, the New North Carolina Project, and whether you all have priorities about the areas in which you wish to canvass. My coming on with this is my interest in potentially canvassing within my neighborhood, which we've not done because primarily I've been a precinct chair through most of the pandemic. And but I was just curious, if you have priority areas as opposed to coming into a fairly somewhat affluent community that has a large number of registered voters who are unaffiliated, which is what we are talking about targeting.
Yeah, so
I'd just like to hear a little more about it.
Of course, yeah. The New North Carolina Project, our base is voters of color. So we are really not, touching any, minority or majority white neighborhoods.
Okay.
We are really picky with the areas that we're going. We're looking for a concentration of over 90% people of color, lower income. Yeah. So, and in there we have, wiggle room again, depending on the volunteers, we might, pick something that is 70%, but majority neighborhoods of color is what we're looking for.
Okay.
That's what we want to.
Okay, thank you. I might personally, I've worked in neighborhoods of color, so I would probably be very comfortable in doing canvassing as a volunteer in your organization. But
I'd love to have you.
I also would like to, and I've got several of my regular volunteers who said they would be willing to start to do something they've never done, which is canvass in this precinct. So I appreciate, I'm here to be tutored through that process tonight, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We look forward to having you out of canvas.
Thank you. I think I'm doing that this weekend. So I'll get my hand down.
Any more questions? I think that might be it.
I think that's perfect timing too.
You're muted, Sam.
It's a good thing because the child and the dog just lost it.
Okay.
Okay,
Save
so
us all.
yes, we're going to end you right on time at 7:30. I really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. If anybody wants to stay on and discuss anything further, feel free. I'll hang out a couple of minutes. Otherwise, thank you for coming. Good luck in your canvassing. Much success. Think of who you're speaking to, what you want to say, what's the best lead-in. So you really want to start with a lead-in that's going to open them up. All right. Enjoy, everybody. We got a lot of work to do in this state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Maria.
Of course, Sam, when I said I'll have it attached to an email, I definitely meant you, but
She can share it with us.
Perfect.
Good. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really great to be here and to do this. This is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys, absolutely wonderful. So excited for you all. Maria's amazing. So I know you all are in good hands.
Thanks for coming, Celeste. I appreciate you being here.
Samantha, I hope those allergies get better.
Oof.
And I don't know. I can't tell you to stay inside, but it'll get better. I
Head
promise.
weighs about, I'm saying at least 50 pounds. My head right now. It's like a bowling ball full of just something.
Oh, I'm
Dense.
so
Thank you. It'll work. Dorothea, yes. Hello.
Yeah, I had a question. Do we, so when our Southern Piedmont Circle in our Southern Piedmont Circle, will we separately organize our own canvassing schedule and locations and things of that sort, and use information that's coming from the new North Carolina project? How are we linking up with the new North Carolina project, I guess is my general question.
So I'll answer it as best I can.
Okay.
Maria has the materials.
Uh-huh.
She would set up a spot for us to meet up and get prepared for the canvassing on the day of. She would have, you know, coffee and donuts, whatever we need to sit down and hand out the information and the, you know, the lists, the canvassing list itself, the clipboards, the pens, whatever, all the physical materials. We would meet at a place that she selected. Hopefully she would bring some other canvassers that we can pair up with.
Yeah, that would be good.
Because we need people, you know, we need Black people to go into the neighborhood with us, because we are not going in there by, you know, just a bunch of white women. So we have some partners that are Black people. We have some friends that are maybe willing to canvas with us, and Maria will have some people willing to canvas with us.
Well, on the east side of Charlotte, having a Latino person would be a useful thing too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, diversity.
Even speak Spanish would be ideal.
Yeah, I cry constantly about wishing I had more Spanish speaking people. I did my 2020 campaigns on like an all Latinx team, and it was wonderful because we got insane amounts of things done when you have everyone that spoke Spanish, but it's really hard to put together teams like that. So definitely missing that.
You want to hear something cool? So you know that rap hearing I'm working on?
Yeah.
Maria, I sent you that invitation for March 17th.
Mm-hmm.
One of the impacted witness is Jorge, what's his last name? Hold on a second. He's the president of the Hispanic American Democratic Mecklenburg Party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I am so thrilled because talk about how fractured Charlotte is between the Black activist community and the white activist community. Forget the Hispanic community. It's just, there's no intersections.
No.
So when I heard we got him on today, 10 days before the hearing, I was just so thrilled.
That's amazing.
I'm looking actually to get a translator for the hearing so we can open it up to the Hispanic community on a big level with the hearing itself.
That'd be ideal. Yeah. Yeah. It's just the nature of my own neighborhood.
Miares or Milares?
Miares. I'd have to see the spelling. How do you spell it?
Millares.
Eres. Yeah, like Mijares.
Miares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited. He's
Okay.
He's a big deal, and he's got the whole Hispanic community. That's it. It's his. So like, bring it on. I am so happy.
Yeah, good to be in on that one. Well, I will see what I can turn out over, see if there's anything any neighbors that I can talk to just one-on-one and ask if they'd be interested in doing this work as well.
We'll take any and all the help. I think one of my big things of partnering with these people is I am new to the area. I used to organize in the Greensboro, Raleigh, Durham area. And we are a startup organization. So are like, I keep saying I have all the resources, but my people power is so little. So I'm just showing up and being like, I will give you all the stuff and help you put on whatever if you just help bring people to me, kind of deal. So
Okay.
it's
Well,
like,
that answered my question. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. And
Of
I'll
course.
see you all later.
Awesome, Dorothy.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Bye
It was
bye.
really good to
Bye.
see you.
Diane, did you leave? Oh, I needed you.
Oh, it's just us.
Shoot. Diane is one of the people who's going to organize the postcards.
Okay, gotcha.
I've got a team ready to go, and she was one of the first ones on board. So she'll make sure that everybody gets the amount they want with the exact number of people on the list. They'll do the detail work on that.
Oh my gosh. Well, were you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Okay, good.
But they got to get out there. That's the thing. They got to get out there. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You can't read from a script. I'm sorry. You got to get the gist of it. You got to feel it.
Yeah.
I know what you're asking when we
Yeah.
were there and we were explaining, look, this is what the Poor People's Campaign is saying and doing. They're going to be, oh yeah, of course. And then it'll just be natural conversation because that's what we do, you know.
That's very true.
It's nothing like you have to memorize because you know it already.
No, well, it was really good to see you. I'm glad to get to see you twice today.
Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch.
All right,
bye.
sounds good. Take care.